Hello, everybody, and let's. This week we have Leif Abel from ReVision Furniture. Now, this is one of my golden goose. I was so very excited to talk to this guy. I sort of feel like we're almost the same person. We both love water sports. We're both furniture restorers. We both play music. Our dads were both landscape gardeners. The list goes on. As you listen, you can sort of keep hearing us get closer with similarities. It's fun, it's amusing, and I genuinely love this conversation. Leif opens up by asking me the motivation behind the podcast, which is great because I'm always stoked to have the attention turned to myself. So expect to learn why we're here on the podcast, not in life. And again, I end up directing the conversation to myself to discuss one of my favorite topics, the ship of Theseus, so look forward to that. We then get into Leif, and he has some beautiful insights and philosophies sort of around the importance of pursuing excellence and attention to details. When I say details, I mean all the details. The guy is very, very thoughtful. We learn about how he buckets and organises his content for social media strategy, which is pretty bloody valuable considering how well he's doing. And finishing off with sort of the importance of sharing knowledge. So I really think you'll get a lot from this conversation. Leif has been a massive inspiration for me, just the way that he shoots, and he's kind of introducing a lot into the furniture and restoration world, and he's sort of mixing it all together really, really impressively, and it's shot beautifully. It's very sort of artistic and thoughtful and dramatic and theatrical, so it was quite cool to be able to chat to him. And yeah, the nicest man on the planet, makes me want to be a nicer person. So I don't know what more I can say about him and everything he's doing, just that I'm super thankful that he gave us his time. So welcome, Leif from ReVision Furniture. Anyway, you're going to steal the show and ask me questions, which is really what I want.
Yeah. yeah, I get your strategy. No, but yeah, I was just going to ask you about the podcast in general, what's your kind of thoughts behind it or motivation, and it doesn't have to be some fancy plan. I was just curious,
No, I love the question. I did the podcast when I first started the business, and I interviewed design dealers, like people that buy and sell furniture. And
nice.
Yeah, because I did my apprenticeship with a company, and we did like French antiques, and it was like Kapocki was a very large company in Melbourne, and they imported like 4 containers a year from Europe, doing mainly French antiques. So I started doing like all the veneer work and gilding and brass work and bronze work and all that stuff, and really like ornate over the top pieces. But I loved the owner's life. So Phil's life, he would fly to Europe like half the year, and he just buy stuff. And I thought they'd come back with these wild stories. And I thought, this is the most interesting lifestyle I've ever heard of. And I was like 18. So I'm like, this is crazy. And and then the more you get into it, you're more of those kinds of people you meet. And I was just like enamored by them. I was like, these people are so interesting. And so when I first started the podcast, I just wanted to interview those people. I had like no interest in speaking to restorers, because I ended up sort of running their workshop. I worked there for like 9 years, and I started running their workshop, and we had like 8 restorers, so it was like, I didn't really want to speak to any other restorers because that was my life.
Yeah.
I wanted to speak to people doing the really interesting stuff, which I thought was buying and selling and flying around and doing all the cool stuff. And the pod was amazing. Like, I loved doing it, but it was a lot of work when I first started. I was trying to start the business, and then I would go to these people's shops, and then I would set the podcast up. Like, the music background helps with like being able to do all the audio engineering. And I'm assuming it might be the same with the way you do content, like lighting and recording. You have a bit of a background in it, which does help. But I'd go there and I'd set it all up, and it was so much time. And I pretty much sold it as I'd just give them like a branding package. I would then film the whole place and I'd send it to them. So I felt like I was like, they're all kind of older people. Or at least over like 50s, most of them. So I'd be like, I'll come in, I'll film all your stuff, I'll edit all. And this is 7 or 8 years ago. So I was like, I'll film everything and put it together.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, so I thought it was a good opportunity for them. I wanted to speak to them. I wanted to like be able to chat to people because I fucking love having conversations. So I was like, I want to chat to these people and I want to get to know them. And as a massive side effect, they all started just giving me work. Like, like as one of my good friends who I met out of it, who's since passed, Jeffrey Hattie. He was like one of the most well-known sort of modern sort of dealers in Melbourne. He just,
Wow.
we became like best friends, or not best friends. I thought he was my best friend. Like I loved him.
Yeah.
He was just
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
like he probably just thought of me as like a kid, But I was like, oh my god,
Right,
I
right.
love this guy. But he would just send me all his work, and then all the interior designers would start sending me their work, and so all this like business came out of just starting this podcast. And then I got too busy to do it, like
Right, right.
yeah. But then I ended up
So
being
when you met with them, were you I mean you were mainly approaching them saying, "Hey, let me help you, grow and kind of brand yourself." But they also knew you had restoration skills simultaneously. Is that what you're saying? And then so then they started sending stuff to you.
Yeah, it was funny because it was kind of like this sort of conversation. A lot of them, I would sort of preface it in an email or a call, but I wouldn't really go into it much. I'd just say that I'm doing a podcast on design dealers. But then I did, like, it's hard because they'd always be like, how'd you get into this? And I'd just be like, oh, I'm a furniture restorer. And then they'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, what do you do? And they like show me photos. And then they were like, holy shit, this dude's crazy. Because I was like locked in a workshop working for somebody else, not really posting any content or anything. Well, I would, but no one really, I had no following or anything. So it was like,
Yeah.
no one knew. But then when they'd look at my Instagram, they'd be like, oh God, this guy's like laying brass and veneer work and repairing marble and doing all this crazy stuff. And they'd never heard of me. And it's not like they should hear of me. You just know that like restoration communities in cities are pretty small. There's not a great deal of people doing it. So I think they're like, here's this 25-year-old guy who's doing all this stuff, and I don't know who he is. And then they'd be like, oh, could you fix this? Could you fix that? And it just grew like out of happenstance, really.
Nice. Well, dude, that's the power of relationships or networking, as they say.
Yeah, but that was my
That's really cool.
with this one though, like because I did that and I was like, it was a lot of work and design dealers, as much as they have a cool life, some of them are a little weird. I was like, and they're a little different from restorers. And the more I've sort of started developing my business, and then I start seeing similar situations throughout Australia and around the world, and when I saw the way you shoot your content and the way that it's such a considered approach, and the way like people like Aaron from Moore's Refinishing does his, and there's a bunch of guys in Australia as well.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I had this like, God, I want to chat to these people. And you do need to offer something mutually exclusive, mutually beneficial rather. Like I'm like, we could just chat, but I'd find it really hard to just get you on a video call for an hour if we weren't like,
Yeah.
if we couldn't cut it up and use it in some way, So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm really far more engaged to have these conversations because I feel like I have far more experience now, and two, I feel like we have
Yeah.
far more in common than I had with those other people. I'd sort of sit there and go,
Yeah.
I can't relate to any of this when I was having conversations with them.
Wow. Yeah. That's understandable.
Yeah.
And yeah, very interesting. Um, yeah.
I think you'd be good at it.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
No, I fucking took the floor for far too long, so apologies.
No. No, man, I love people's stories. I love hearing details.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, thank you. But let's get back to you, hey? I'm sure you can have your own podcast. You speak beautifully.
Oh, thank you, man. I do have a strong desire, to do a podcast. I really do. My biggest debate in my head is really what about? Like, because I know the effectiveness of niching down, and I am one of those people, I'm sure you're similar, like who's truly fascinated by so many different things, and I love learning like from all like walks of life, and whether it's spirituality or art, furniture, business, branding, it's just like all over the map. And I think so with that said, uh I would say my biggest debate is like, do I make it about furniture slash design, or do I make it about, more of branding, business, and those types of things, you know. Um, so, but either way, I really do want to, probably for a lot of the similar reasons as you, like I really just want to do it to connect with people and learn from people, and you know, give people a voice, make it mutually beneficial, all those kind of things. So yeah, we'll see.
I mean, a spot on, man. I think all those reasons are good. I find the same thing. I was before setting up these interviews. I was like, why the hell am I doing it, and what is it for? That's the why question's always hard. And but I definitely am a guy who I am the same as you in the way I'm interested in so many different things, and it's hard sometimes. You've got to just like dial that focus down to you know, sort of something that's higher leverage or higher value. It's kind of hard because you just get like distributed across all of your interests. You know, it's very difficult, but I thought, oh, I like talking to people and I have a little more time now. I'm not like, you're not in the insane thralls of starting a business. As much as I still need to grind and work very hard, I'm like, I could do a few late mornings. You know, back in the day, I couldn't do any late mornings. So I was like, well, I'd like to fill it with something. And like, I'm already having so much fun with the conversation we had beforehand, and with this, it's like, I'd love to keep doing this kind of thing. So, and there's something about like, people are so used to Zoom now, I can just do it from home. It's so good. Like going into someone's house, setting things up. I'm like, oh God, now everyone, and I knew there's a handful of guys and ladies, I know they'll have good sound. I won't, you know, we don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of like dealing with audio and video issues and stuff. So the technology's just made it so much easier. Yeah,
for sure. That's a great point.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm going to get into some of the questions we sort of spoke about, which really isn't, I don't really have a great deal planned, but it's, you know, we'll just sort of move through it. But one thing I wanted to ask before we go into any questions, have you heard of that philosophical sort of thought experiment, the what is it, the ship of Theseus?
I don't know the term. Maybe I've heard of it, but I don't know the term.
You'll get it. I think you'll like it. It's the ship of, we hadn't spoken about this, but you know, this is how my brain works. But the Theseus is a story about like a ship that over time it gets all of its components repaired and changed. So by the end of its sort of life, the boat, although looking exactly the same, is made up of completely different components. And so it's like, it's got, the idea is like, is it the same boat? Which I find such an interesting topic of like, if all components are replaced, is something the same? There's a similar one called grandfather's axe. So if you have your grandfather's axe, but at one point the handle breaks and you make a new handle, and then the head breaks, and then you know, blacksmith a head, both components are gone. But is it your grandfather's axe? And it's hard because it's about the sort of stories you tell yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know where you sit on the idea of if something is, if it's complete. It's like, it's so applicable to restoration, I find. So, sorry to just delve deep into restoration talk.
Yeah.
and it's so deep, it's so far deep.
Yeah.
But generally my view on it is that if something isn't replaced all at once, like if it is like ongoing repairs and things sort of get changed over time, you know, the repairs also age with time, so they all sort of tell a story. Where if something's like a huge overhaul, I feel, and you just shred it to bits and redo everything, at that point, if it's like, if there's a moment where it ceases to exist almost, and
exactly.
you know, and then is rebuilt, I'm kind of like, that's probably not the same piece.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So would you say that's somewhat of a question you're asking, or?
Oh, no, it's more.
Or are you just presenting the?
Well, I was mainly presenting it. I would like to see how that applies to your approach of restoration, of that sort of, because it is a fine line with of how much to impact on the piece of furniture. So I don't know, something you think about when you're working on, I mean, it's hard to avoid thinking about, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's a great thought, and it definitely can segue into so many areas of restoration, right? I'm sure we'll hit on at some point, like patina versus no patina and all these kind of things too, right? Exactly. But yeah, as far as like replacing complete parts, you know, from pieces, I personally haven't had to do that. a lot of that is just through my own selective strategy with restoration, because up until this point, I've done mostly buying, restoring, and selling of like high-end, mid-century modern and Scandinavian pieces in particular. So since that's been the case, you know, I don't, especially anymore. When I was starting out, I bought some crazy, just roached out, you know, just severe water damage everywhere. Like I went, I got some of those pieces where there was a lot more replacing going on. But yeah, pretty much overall, I don't really get pieces that's the case. So I've never really had that debate, I guess is what I'd say in my own head of like, oh man, is this even the same piece anymore? Like pretty much most all the materials are still there, for the pieces I typically work with, aside from like if a leg happens to be missing on, a credenza or something, or it's so broken severely it needs, remaking or something like that. But aside from that, like I very strategically buy pieces where like refinishing is the core thing that it needs. And, there's always going to be drawer tracks that need replacing or fixing or misalignment, like having to, fabricate some things here and there. But yeah, nothing very substantial as far as
Yeah.
that goes.
No,
So
same.
yeah, but I appreciate, yeah, that's a great question, to consider in the restoration, art
Yeah,
is
it's
like the piece is really, really old and really, really gone, but it's still really, really valuable, and someone wants to try to use it normally. Like, yeah, like how much do you replace before you say, okay, this is not the piece anymore? Yeah.
yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
exactly the same. We don't do anything where you redo the entire, like you completely change it. But it's such an interesting sort of pushing the idea of replacement and restoration to an extreme of like, well, where is that line? Which is like,
Line.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
some like, and we would hardly ever broach it, but it is a funny thing to be like, what, like, how much intervention's too much intervention? And I've had people comment on my stories and things before of like, just being like, is this even original anymore? I'm like, I just repolished it. You're like, it's not even, like,
How dare you?
how dare you not let it rot and die? And I'm like, I'm just putting a fresh skin on it, so it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that big. There's just like, there's sort of a spectrum of like purist, and then at the other end of someone who will just demolish anything and replace it. It's just a fascinating realm to live. But let's get back to you. How did you first start off? So you say you do a lot more for sort of buying and selling, which is great because then at least you have control of like selecting what you work on. But is that how
Yeah.
it always was?
No, when I started out, I, dove in head first, learning as much as possible, a lot of trial by fire. I literally had a couple tools to my name in a 10 by 12-foot mud room in our house, and it would flood actually anytime it rained a lot. So yeah, lots of variables there. And then I upgraded to the carport 10 feet away. And then I'd have to deal with thunderstorms, in between and pulling pieces in and out. But yeah, starting out, as far as pieces go, I both bought my own and learned a lot of refinishing, and then I did a few commissioned pieces for restoration and refinishing for some people. And very early on, I hated that. So I think a lot of it was just the stress of, being new into it in general. It's like you combine a perfectionist with a newbie with someone else's furniture, there's going to be a lot of F-bombs going on in that
Oh,
workroom.
oh man,
So
yes.
that's a good soundbite right
Oh, it's
there.
so relatable. It's crazy.
Yeah, so that's very early on. I think I did like three. I think I did like three pieces for other people. And they were all really happy, you know, because after I redid it like 4 times,
Yeah, yeah.
then delivered it to them, and I'm like, okay, I'm pleased with this. But of course, I made no money because I spent like a week on something that should have taken like 2 hours, And so, anyways, at that point, I'm like, wow, the stress alone wasn't worth it. The money surely wasn't worth it. I loved the smile on their face, but I'm like, I had a wife and 2 children already at that time. I'm like, this ain't gonna pay the bills. And so that reality sank in, and I'm like, okay, I think the retail move is the way to go. And then of course the added benefit of me getting to do exactly what I envisioned for the piece, exactly how I want to do it, and then list it, and then I know whoever wants to buy it will love it
Mm.
exactly how it is, like versus like, oh, did you get that shade different, or it's just like so yeah, that was kind of the starting out point, and yeah, went straight into really buying, restoring, and selling.
Well done. That's a nice place. That's a nice place to be because I relate very deeply to the experience of dealing with a client that it's hard because they own the piece and there's often damage, so they're concerned about parts of the damage, and then you have to repair that damage. And there's always an aspect of repair or
Yeah.
pre-existing damage, so it's hard to sort of bleed that out of their mind, even if it's beautifully restored.
Yes, exactly, for sure. And now I'm coming into a season where I'm actually offering that as a part of my business, to do commission work again. And, some of that is business strategy, business model, and I think, getting into the service aspect right now is a wise decision versus housing boatloads of inventory. So that's one reason. Also, I've had some pretty wild dreams, literal like dreams in the night of like just serving people in a really, really special way, and like pursuing hospitality at like another level. And so that was another reason why I wanted to start offering restoration again. Yeah, it's just because like with the current retail, it's like each client I have is super, super special, which I love that element, but it's also very, spread out. There's
Yeah.
not a ton of interactions. And so the more people I get to work with, the more people I get to impact, the more people I get to serve. And so like I want to just create a little more flow for all of those reasons, that I mentioned. So yeah, now I am doing commission work. And another reason, or like another thing I think that helps open that up is simply just confidence, in my own skills, judgment, and yeah, just what I like. And so yeah, I'm very much like coming into my own skin as an artist versus just saying like, oh, I can refinish that,
Yeah.
like, no, like I'm really intentional about my process, and, you know, yeah,
You also
that's
have
about
like,
all I can
yeah,
say, I
no,
think.
I understand. And you have like proof to yourself. You have like a boat
Yeah,
of proof that you can overcome stuff. That's the hardest thing earlier on, I think, is
right,
knowing that taking in someone else's item and you're still learning on it is a challenging place to live. So it's easy. You'd rather
right,
sort of let down yourself. You'd rather buy something, learn on that thing, and then sell it at a, at a percentage of what you should sell it for because you're learning. It's hard when you're doing
right.
that. Yeah, it's hard when you're doing that as a service where, yeah,
Yeah,
I was lucky that I apprenticed through a company that they would just let me ruin pieces. Not really, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
yeah, no,
there's
I
such,
hear you.
there's such an arc of learning that, yeah, having qualified people around you all the time to intervene and go, that's no, and to
Right, right,
fix all of your mistakes. That gave me confidence early to be like, oh, I'll just go for it, and everyone will tell me to stop. Like, and if
yeah,
it's very difficult when you're sort of managing that in real time with a family, with
yeah,
clients, and clients.
yeah,
Clients can be like clients. We'll get into this, but clients are amazing. Like we have amazing clients, but it's really hard sometimes to get people from that void of where there's, sorry, that's my alert going off. Get people from that void of like where they see something in their mind of what they want, and you're the one to sort of filter it through your own approach, and then there's an outcome. And it's very hard to hit an outcome that matches the vision and sort of thoughts in their brain.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't get in.
Right.
I can't get into your brain and find out exactly what you want. There's a whole bunch lost just in the communication, and then you're the one to execute on something physical, and it's like an insane balance sometimes with some clients and some pieces. Like if someone's like, I want that mahogany to go white or something, and you're like, that won't happen. But like
yeah. Well, pretty much I'm just convinced at this point that all businesses are basically just, you're a life coach. like every interaction between a business owner and a client, or even employee, like every relationship really boiled down as just being an excellent life coach. Like, I know you want the mahogany to look like this, so here's the best, most kind way I can explain reality to you. But we can do it. You can have your dream, and I can help you get there.
Yeah, I definitely feel like a lot in that respect, where my main thing is like, so what's your ideal outcome? And that's like a very philosophical question. So,
yeah, I know, right?
It's funny though, because you're like, well, so just tell me exactly what would be your best case scenario, and we'll work back to what's possible.
Yeah. It is worth asking though. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it is a great, simple way to ask things. But I think often our own insecurities hinder us from asking in such a direct way. Yes. We're like, I remember early on in sales when I was selling like luxury boats and stuff, I was starting out and I was trying to guess what they were thinking, like thinking that that's how I could win in sales. And it was the exact opposite. It was just acting like, not acting like, but being so present, and like really just learning great questions to ask them so that they can ultimately tell you the most true reason of why they're there and what they want, and then just like, following through on that, and just,
it's exactly that. It's exactly that, isn't it? It's more about learning it's exactly what a person wants, because I find with sales it's just helping them make their decision, whether they even choose to use your service or buy your product. It's like, so like, just if I know where you're at and what you want, I can offer you what we have, or I can say, hey, this is not what you need, and we can all move this on way faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Save you time or direct you where you actually need to go, or I can definitely sell you on this thing that will 100% suit your needs.
That's right.
So you start. So let's go on to this boat question, because I'm not going to let this go. You started selling luxury boats.
Yeah, I put them in the luxury. They were actually water ski and wakeboard boats, but considered the highest end within that realm. The Nautique brand by Craft. And
I was going to say, was it Wake Setter? Was it Nautique? Was it? Yeah, I was like, which one was it? Malibu.
So Malibu. Was certainly competitor, Mastercraft, Nautique. Those three were typically referred to as like the top three, especially when I was selling. And then now Craft, the corporation, they own Nautique. They bought out Centurion, Supreme, and a couple others. And I think they even own now the engine company that goes in their competitor boat. So they're kind of like
to take over. It's just a care.
For sure. Yeah. So anyways, but those were the boats I was selling. And I was very familiar with them, because I grew up skiing behind a lot of those specific boats. So from like a product knowledge standpoint, like user experience, like I knew pretty well everything about them from a feature standpoint. But I definitely needed to learn a lot about sales. And so I did, like, while I was at that boat dealership in particular. And yeah, it was a great experience, a part of my journey. And at one point, wife and child and second one on the way or just born. And I just felt an inner leading to leave. I was just, I mean, all the neon signs were saying like, Leif, this is what you're meant to do. Like you grew up in the sport, you know everything about the boats. My great great grandfather had actually founded that boat company back in
Wow.
1925. And yeah, so it was like all the neon signs, like this is what you're made to do: sell boats and sell these boats. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Bold move,
so
man, as well. Like
yeah, yeah,
that's a time to make a that sort of moment is an easy time to make a convenient choice. You know, when you're
for
like,
sure.
it's as if you've got most of the excuses stacked in the right direction. You can go, hey, I've got a family. This is I'm building a family. This is a family kind of business. No one would give me stick for staying here. You're like, this would make complete sense. It's, you know,
Oh yeah,
built in lifestyle, but it actually is the
yeah. I
perfect
had
on ramp for you to go into furniture, though, luxury furniture.
yeah, in some ways, for sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Some would say no, not at all. Some would say, oh, sure.
But there is a similarities, at least if you're
Yeah.
trying to sell higher end items. To have
Yes,
some form of
for sure.
experience on selling higher
For
end
sure.
items is valuable for sure. But so
Yes.
Leif did have a former life as a competitive water skier for those listening, and a snow skier, if I'm correct.
Yeah, yeah. Snow ski racing as well.
God damn, isn't that amazing? But did you find those skills transitioned over, at least when you were sort of dealing with clients and sort of when you started to sort of sell
Yeah,
higher ticket items?
yeah, yes, man, for sure. When you've learned to sit down and calmly walk someone through the process of, purchasing $140,000 boat, that they'll use once a week or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like this
Yeah,
is not a need, but also selling, like, again, like, yeah, just walking someone through that process and learning the confidence, learning what's important to people at that level. Again, I think the biggest thing is just trust, developing trust, listening very well. And so, yeah, translating that to my furniture business, like that's literally one of the greatest lessons. And I wish I'd talk about this more just in general. Uh, here's a great place is one of the lessons I've learned along the way is like you can pursue excellence no matter what your resources are. And so that was really, I think, what helped me throughout the journey is like as many mistakes as I made along the way, as many F-bombs as I dropped in my 10 by 12 foot mud room, bumping into fresh coats of finish, you know, uh, I still pursued excellence. I'm like, this is all I can do. Like, I don't have outside funding and trust fund and blah, 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 and all these things. Like, I just can master painting with a brush. I
yeah,
just can master lacquer, out of an aerosol can. I just can master, like, and if you can master that, like how life typically works is then another opportunity will either present itself or, you might make that opportunity kind of present itself. So, yeah, so that was kind of getting back to the translation from luxury boat sales to furniture, it translated, just the level of intentionality of being excellent. Because, like, yeah, to convince someone, or not convince, but yeah, to lead someone through that process of buying a very expensive item and developing that trust is similar to building a business, a successful business. And, you know, I mean, I literally built everything, from the ground up. Website design, brand idea, logo, got on Instagram, started social media, started learning. So, it's just like, and that is often, the life of a solopreneur or entrepreneur is like you almost always wear all the hats early on. So yeah, just pursuing excellence along the way. And it's just been a slow grind, slow growth.
yeah, man. No, that guy I relate. Yeah, powerfully. I mean, those lessons you learn all the steps along the way, even just learning how to ski. there's a huge learning curve and skill acquisition of just being able to get up on the slalom. And then, then learning to sell boats and then having the courage to then do something completely different. These are all things that like lead with intentionality and make you like a better person, which is, it sounds crazy, but it's one of those things you need to be able to run a business and to do a good service and to master something. It's going to take just non-stop pain, relentlessly. So if you can sort of wear it, and if you've like the stack of proof you needed to start accepting outside work, you need the stack of proof to be like, I can withstand this. And so it's one of those things that just make it that much more rewarding, and it leads straight into sort of the work you do. And going on with your branding and everything like that, it sort of feels holistic like that. Your image, everything you've done, doesn't feel like you've gone to a branding company. It presents like that, it presents beautifully, but it also seems like someone who is, in charge and doing it themselves and has a vision.
Right on. Thank you. Yeah. And it's something else I haven't talked a lot about either is the meaning behind my name, ReVision Furniture, at that, point in life. And then it's a play on words for sure. There's like a revision to the piece of furniture, right? You're revising kind of the life of it. But also at that stage in my life, it was a major developing a new vision, for my life and my wife and our family. And, I was coming home to my children, my oldest at the time was a toddler and a couple years old, and he would cry because he didn't like recognize me. I was gone so much, and he'd have to warm up to me. And so that feeling was terrible. And so this taking a leap, leaving, like my first solid job, solid income, all those kind of things, to start something completely brand new was definitely intense. But was definitely,
Did you come up against any issues? Like, was there other people in your family that were like, "What are you doing?" Was it smooth sailing, or was there speed bumps?
Not smooth sailing. I would say just about everyone thought I was insane, except for my wife, thankfully, which is crucial, right? But
100%.
Yeah, I mean, employers, friends. Certainly employers and friends were like, "You're an idiot. You're insane." I got accused for going to work for competitors. I got like,
oh wow,
yeah, I mean, all kinds of stuff. But overall, I like to end saying like, I'm really grateful for everyone, who allowed me to work there, and like, I'm super grateful. I don't have anything bad to say about those people. Really grateful for the opportunity that I got to work there. But yeah, it was a wild ride, leaving and feeling just enough inner confirmation to make that leap, but externally everything was like, "You're stupid, you're an idiot." So it was a good trial by fire, the first of many.
Oh man, it's hard. Was there a period for you? I like getting into that, at least the start of the business. We will get into like where we are now, but it is nice for people that might be starting the business or in that early stage. Was there a period where you were still doing the boats and everything and restoring furniture? Was there like a sort of, or you just went kablamo?
Yeah, no, I went kablamo for sure. So there was a period. So I exited pretty slowly. Like, I thought it was pretty considerate. I told my bosses, I was like, "Hey, I know this is a shock, me just announcing that I'm leaving ever, but I want to hopefully give you time to bring in another sales guy. Maybe I can help train him." So I think roughly the transition was around a month to 2 months.
Yeah, it's not
from
much
like when I announced to leaving. But in between then, I had no plan Bs. And once my final day I walked out, I still had no, like, furniture was not on the radar. I was already trying other ideas. I had like graphic design as a skill. I had music. I was going to do like guitar lessons.
Yeah.
I helped a friend who owned a fitness equipment servicing business a few times. Yeah, I was just throwing, lots of darts in different directions, and helped my dad a little bit with landscape again, just supplementing, just trying to like not eat through our savings as rapidly, but we ate through them very quickly
Oh
still.
man.
So about 6 months from the time I left the sales job to starting the furniture was 6 months. And that was, when I say starting the furniture, that means I bought my first piece off Craigslist and made $25.
That's a
Like,
start,
I'm not
baby.
saying I started a business. Like, it was really like, yeah, it was really like leaving full-time sales job, went through the abyss for 6 months, trying everything, started the furniture thing, went through hell for like a year and a half, you know. I mean, there were good moments, but I'm just saying that was just like pure grind, learning, just diving in, annoying the heck out of all the local woodworkers, asking them a bazillion questions, just learning all the things. So, and then around year two was when I met a friend, or yeah, around year 1 or 2, but friendship blossomed with a guy named Kyle down in Florida, and his business partner at the time. They owned a really cool mid-century modern, Danish modern furniture business. Still going to today, About Modern. I'll give them a shout out, but
About modern,
really
okay,
cool
cool.
guys. Yeah, and so yeah, I'm still friends with both those guys to this day. But Kyle and I became like best friends overnight, and very similar to you and I actually. Like, we got on our first phone call, and he's I'm like, I used to do skiing competitively. He's like, oh, I grew up like basically pro surfing, like drugs, teens, and then we were both doing music, like worship leaders at churches and all this stuff at the time, and then we'd been married the same amount of time to our wives. It's like we were like, when we were the same age, like, anyway, so we became really good friends overnight, and we happened to be in this kind of similar business, and he was super helpful to me early on, just being like, dude, if you niche down, kind of to this category, I've seen you do some of these pieces. He's like, you can definitely make a living. And that was when things really, really shifted for us, was just niching down the type of furniture we were working with, learning the designers, learning the manufacturers of the past, and knowing what pieces were going to be worth investing in and restoring and selling and stuff. So yeah, around 2 years was when I actually was like, I think I have a business.
And what year was that? When was that? When, like, if we time place that, when was that sort of
I would say that was like 2018-ish.
Oh wow, nice. Yes, so it's been yeah, you've been doing it for a while. So it was pre-COVID and everything.
Yep. Yes, sir.
How did
so
then COVID, like, so you would have kept growing and you kept sort of buying and selling from that point onwards?
Yeah, pretty much just slow growth. I definitely early on saw the potential benefit of like getting a little more bulk of inventory. And I think that was a wise move at that time I was getting a lot of pieces, getting them listed quickly. I never had a complaint from a client, but I was like listing pieces like really, really quickly. And, sometimes I'd list them as is, but basically sell them as like refinished. And then I would refinish them, they'd go out the door, and, everyone was super happy. So I was just like really trying to get a lot of pieces listed, and of course on various third-party sites, my own website. And yeah, probably around that year 2 to 3, just started finding the groove more and getting more inventory, so more sales were happening, and creating some flow.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things, especially with the buying and the selling, is just the physical space that you operate in. and where you can put things
Yeah.
and where you can store them and when you can finish them and when you can ship them, when you can move them. That's
Yeah.
why I used to do the same thing. After I did my apprenticeship, while I was doing my apprenticeship, I used to buy stuff. I'd restore it in the workshop that I worked at, and I'd sell it just on the side, if you know what I mean. And then I would buy more
Yes.
things. Then I would import stuff because Australia doesn't have a great deal of design history. There'd be a lot of Australian purists now that are going to be like, Australia in 1950s was the best. But there is a lot, but very small population, very small industry. So most of our good design is imported from places, and we have a lot of it because we import a lot. Like Australians travel a lot. They are they're design conscious people, so they bring a lot of stuff in, and then we have a great sort of manufacturing and sort of maker environment in Australia now. But I was importing stuff and buying and selling, and then I was also operating the service, and I was like, okay, so the restoration 100% makes money because people are like, I don't have enough space and enough room to take on all the work that people want me to do. So I was like, I have to not sell things. So I just cut off. I went the other way, like you. I just said, because I would have fully finished pieces sitting, waiting to be sold, and then I'd move them out the way. I'd scratch them, and I'd be like, God, and then I'd have to refinish them, and I'm like, well, I'm making nothing on that now.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's a massive challenge. So the bulk inventory is a bold move. I'm glad it paid off.
Yeah, and for, this might be really encouraging for someone listening is my setup was very humble the first, I would say 4 years, 5 years even. Carport. I even set up, I've shared some videos and stories on this even on Instagram, so I don't mind sharing it. But like, yeah, I was shooting even my product photos in my carport with paper roll. I figured out like you could get like a nice floor visual with Lexan or plexiglass, stuff like that. And so, freaking online, I look like $1 million Calgary. And at that time I was shooting in my carport, and like I mentioned before, I think we started the podcast, I'd have to deal with thunderstorms. I'd be shooting a piece and the wind would pick up, and I'm like looking across and I'm like, oh crap, like there's that's gonna be hitting me in 60-mile-an-hour winds in like 10 minutes. And so I'd get the pieces inside, roll everything up, take it all down, and man, I did that, I don't even know, hundreds of times, like hundreds of pieces.
Yeah, totally.
Rolling it out, setting it up, and but it's like it goes to show, and I want to share a little more details. I had a minivan, had that, and we rented like the most economical storage option in town. So I'd finish a piece, shoot it, take it and store it, in a storage unit, as a lot of people, do still. But yeah, it was very approachable, and it was within my means. But within like each one of those things, I like tried doing it with excellence. I even would have clients come to my storage unit and I detail the storage unit before people would show up. I'd organize all the furniture so it looked great, like as close to you as you can get to a showroom as a storage unit.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Set that intention from the start's incredible. To be like, no, we don't have everything, we don't have much, but the idea here is to be excellent.
Exactly. Even my minivan, if I'd have to deliver a piece in person or whatever, I detail the minivan, and I had magnets made that looked really nice and professional, and it's hilarious me saying this out loud. Like, this guy's trying to say he had a nice looking minivan, delivery van, but like, you know, I just like, I think the little things do matter and they do add up. You go to a restaurant or something, and like the difference between a waiter who like learns your kid's name and the one who's just like doing it to get out of it, like a world of difference. And you're gonna, or at least I'm definitely gonna want to tip the heck out of the person who cared about my kid's name. It's like those little things just go such a long way. And so Yeah, that's been just a really big lesson for me. It's like, and I hope it encourages other people. You know, you don't need what you might see now on my Instagram, you know, a much larger shop and this nice studio thing that I built, which I still built in a very economical fashion, but I'm just like, you know, it wasn't always like that, you know, but I still was able to build something I think that was worthy of, you know, some working with some really cool people and getting the opportunity to sell some really cool pieces. So
Yeah, I think I mean, photos are so important, aren't they? Like being able to, like say, when you see an Instagram, you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. Like some Instagrams look flash and the people could be going out of business. You just don't, you don't really know. But when you're selling luxury items or if you're doing like a beautiful service, you want it to present in a certain fashion. And so it's a bit strange if it's really high end, beautiful stuff, but it's just, if you photograph it just in like a backyard or something, like you have to do
right.
that. You feel like if you're offering good service and you're trying to sell something that is a higher ticket item, you want to do those 1% differences, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And like a great example or another like kind of part of the story is like, you know, if a client saw what they saw through my Instagram, my website, or wherever they bought the piece from and the photos, and then for example, they get like awesome communication on the email, like when the piece is shipping out, when the shipper is supposed to pick it up for me, when it's gonna, you know, ETA time window, making sure I choose a reliable shipper, making sure, you know, just like I pay the extra $200 to get a white glove delivery versus trying to just get the cheapest shipper to try to make money. Like all those decisions I did very intentionally. And so the person who bought, you know, from my site that looked like or, you know, from the listing that looked like a gallery, they on the back end got an experience that felt like they got it from a gallery, if not better, to be
Yeah.
honest. And I'm not sitting here like bragging. I'm just like, I think it is the reality. Like a lot of businesses and even high-end places, galleries and stuff, can forget like that the very, very little things matter. Like that one extra email communication of just, hey, there was a slight delay. But I wanted you to know about it, like versus like, oh, I just won't tell them and you know, maybe they'll just be okay. Like just don't like communicate. People care way more about hearing from you than you trying to preserve your image, you know, in a way. So
People love that honesty.
yeah,
Like they love
yeah,
honesty. If you go like that, you go. And if you can create a good service from cradle to grave, people remember it. And if you just screw something up at the back end, especially at the back end, but if they just have one bad experience and it can just be minor, it can just sour an entire experience.
exactly,
And it
exactly. So
takes you
yeah,
so
just
long to
carrying
make that.
that.
Sorry, go.
Exactly. Yeah, so just carrying that through the process was something that I got really, really adamant about. You know, and pretty early on, I mean, again, there's plenty of learning of the ropes of who is a good shipper, what companies are reputable, which ones do take insurance here, you know, just like all those little things. But yeah, again, just not cutting corners. Uh, like I don't think I ever regret spending more money on a customer
No.
like on a decision to make sure they would be happy, you
Yeah.
know. I don't think it's ever come back to like hurt me necessarily. So
No, the inverse always hurts you. As in
yeah.
cutting a corner and knowing that you haven't done the right thing and then someone just, even if you just feel that they're not happy, even if they don't complain,
Yeah.
you're like, oh man, what have I done here? That hurts way more
Yeah.
than being like, I'm a little out of pocket, but my intention was pure.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that took me a little longer
Exactly.
to realize, not not everything there, but especially the sort of making the experience an experience rather than just a service. It
Mm,
took me a little bit
mm,
longer because was probably like a little arrogant. I just thought like, I'm the guy, I do all the stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to make this amazing and
Yeah.
you're going to enjoy it no matter what, because I'm going to do amazing work. But it's just
Yeah.
no one cares for that. And I used to employ like a few people. I used to have like 4 employees. All
Wow.
So when I started the business, I then set up, I had a polisher, 2 polishers and an apprentice
Wow.
and a laborer. So I like employed, and I dialed it back only like probably like 18 months ago or something. I just dialed
Okay.
back to being me and just one helper,
Mhm.
just because I couldn't offer that service that I wanted, that you spoke about. The volume was too high at a point where some items I was like, I don't really like the look of that item. I wouldn't generally let that in the work. I wouldn't let that piece in the workshop if I was doing it, but I'm letting it in because I need other people to do work. And it
Right.
like the purity of the experience and expression for
Experience.
me just dipped. Even like for me, but also I could tell for some clients. And then, so I was like, I just didn't like that direction. And when you're scaling a business, you sort of think, more is better in some respect, but more can just be more considerate or, better
Yeah.
experiences. So I had to like do a sort of a U-turn to sort of correct back to where I am now, where I think like probably you're in a similar situation where you just want to offer a bit of a higher end service and
Yeah.
experience to somebody, rather than just like punching something out, getting something done. Like you actually consider of how it makes the person feel.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Yeah, and whenever possible, yeah, getting to, purposefully target higher end clients is, I think often a really, really good move. I mean, my best experiences with clients were the ones who spent the most, and they were often the just easiest to work with. So it's like, you know, I'm not saying not to say there's exceptions. There's definitely probably exceptions to that, but yeah, in my experience, it's like the people who really, really value what you do usually complain the least, or and not to say like I haven't really had much of that, but just saying like even number of communications or
Yeah,
question, like there's just usually way more trust established for someone who will drop 10 plus K with you, versus someone who's like you know a tenth of that or a fifth of that, like just kind of like nickel and diamond, or like.
yeah,
So yeah, just like there's definitely something to say for that. And of course, there's all kinds of business models out there, but I think for us as artists slash small business owners, yeah, I think it's a really great place for us to come to where we can just kind of narrow down our vision for our ideal client and just really knock their socks off, in a good way. So
yeah. Well, it's one of those situations where it's sort of uncouth sometimes to talk about, but the service is in some way a luxurious experience anyway. So to like pretend that it's not, like, not a lot of people will just, a lot of like regular people and people like I grew up with and stuff, you just buy something, and if it breaks, you just buy like another thing because you can't afford to repair it. So it's just that sort of, you just buy a sort of an entry level piece of furniture to service the needs of a domestic household. So a lot of those people don't even, it's not like they're omitted from the service. It's just never really a consideration. That's definitely how I grew up anyway. So it's like it's hard not to be like, it's servicing a higher end client when you've got a higher end ticket just makes sense. And then if you want to make that a valuable experience, then you're better off just putting more effort in to those fewer clients, because you can charge a little bit higher. They're going to get a better service. It just makes all the sense in the world. Took my dumb head way longer to figure that out. But I found when I employed people, I would still only be working on the really high end stuff. And I would still only present the really high end stuff to, like followers.
right.
So I'm like,
Right.
well, if I just cut off this sort of more bottom end stuff that's keeping me busy, and then more problems are accruing from those
Yeah.
sorts of jobs, it's just not really worth chasing your own tail on stuff that's basically at 80% of that income that was operating was just paying guys wages, and we weren't really getting it.
Yeah.
Which, like,
Right.
I love people and I want people around me, and I grew up in a workshop
Yes.
with like a lot of
Yeah.
people, and I'm just like a loud, gregarious workshop idiot who's just yelling at people, cracking jokes, making 12 coffees a day. So I love being surrounded by people, and
Yeah, the
that's
energy.
yeah, that's my
Yeah.
own like that's my own sort of ego, and like
Yeah.
I want to be able to like chat and talk shit, but yeah, it just doesn't suit the business model, like,
Right.
and you had to make
Yeah.
that choice of like, this isn't like a football club, this isn't
Yeah.
just a boys' town situation. Like, it's a place where we're doing work and we want to perfect the service. So it took me probably a little bit longer than it took you, but hey, I'm glad we're both here.
Yeah. For sure.
So
Yeah.
since then, your sort of engagement online sort of was there a period where you saw, because I know that engagement online often doesn't necessarily translate to like dollars, and when you're working,
Right.
like, you don't necessarily, can't just all of a sudden charge a bunch of money more, but you definitely all of a
Right.
sudden get this big uptick in engagement. So when did that happen,
Yeah.
and was it exciting?
All right. Yes, it was exciting. And when it happened was around what I would call the uptick was around 6 months ago. Yeah, about 6 months ago. So I'll give you the brief backstory. Started out on Instagram. It was the first social media thing I did for our business, and just literally started from zero, no head start. Never paid for a follower or anything to date. And so I remember the first 100 followers. Good God, that was hard. Like, trying to convince a friend to follow you, like an actual real life friend. Like, if you follow my page, I have two, or whatever.
Yeah.
And but anyways, started learning a little bit about social media, and I quickly came up with this kind of strategy idea of like, okay, I don't have a boatload of content. I didn't even know how to create great content, in my opinion, at the time. Uh, and so I was like, man, what's a good way to use other people's content, and like tag them and stuff, but be like kind of sharing, but we're in the same niche. And so quickly, back then too, I cared about grid patterns on Instagram and stuff. And so I was alternating every post. I would do like a close-up furniture shot or something product or whatever, and then I would do mid-century modern interior or exterior. And
So you get
yeah,
this nice little grid situation,
exactly,
diamond enveloping.
yeah, I had white backdrop for my product photos back then. It was like just pure white, and so it'd be like white and then the dark, moody mid-century modern interior, and then light. So yeah, this kind of checkerboard look. But definitely from a growth strategy, it was a good move. Yeah, I mean, I remember even with 100 followers, like getting posts with 6,000, 7,000 likes, like a still image post,
Oh,
back then, because
wow.
things were different back then. And I was like, holy crap, like this is gonna help, and
Yeah.
so it definitely did help me grow early on. But it still was a pretty long grind to like the first 1,000, and then I'll spare any details, like eventually climbed to 10,000 probably after, I want to say, a year or 2 years. Still felt like forever. Probably 2 years or 3 years even. But the weirdest thing happened. This is why I'm sharing this.
Yes.
Is I got to like 12.3 thousand followers after 4 years ish, something like that. And I literally stayed at the same
Oh no.
for 2+ years.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
And so I
that's
was like, okay, I'm trying to not like take on victim consciousness here, but have I been shadow banned? Like, what? And then I just learned, that term
yeah.
after
Never
a
no
couple
one
of
wants to
years.
see just romantic furniture online. Everyone's like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
subdue
yeah.
this man.
I'm like, what is going on? And so Yeah, literally. So that was, I don't know, at least 2+ years I stayed there, and I did kept posting. At one point, I kind of went off, not off grid, but like we did this van tour. My family and I built out the back of this transit van. I literally like listed all these pieces. I had it all set up.
Wow.
Shippers knew where to come. So I went on the road for 6 months, traveling the whole US with my
Oh, that's
family.
amazing.
Yeah, it was wild and a crazy experiment to see if I could run a furniture business like from the road, and
Yeah,
it
remotely.
actually worked.
Wow, well done.
It actually worked. Thank you. Yeah. But anyway, so during that time, I wasn't posting a lot on Instagram, is what I was saying. So I went like almost a half a year with just like one post a week or something like. So in that period, I was just staying at 12.3. And then about, I'm thinking 10 months ago now, maybe 12. Yeah, probably around August last year, I think. Uh, I just got really, I was listening to boatloads of motivational speakers online, Gary Vee,
Yeah. Hermosi,
Tony
just
Robbins, all
everyone.
Hormozy, just Hormozy in my
Hermo-
ears every
oh,
day.
dude,
Yeah.
everyone's gone through just a
Yeah.
marinating of ear marination. Hermosi.
Yeah. Yeah. So I went through my Hormozy phase and
Oh man, I'm gonna tag him so
I,
hard.
yeah. So, anyways, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get serious about content creation, and I'm like, I'm gonna like, hopefully, Lord willing, put to rest if I'm truly shadow banned. Like, I'm gonna learn how to create videos, how to, write hooks. Like, I didn't even know what the term hook meant probably a year ago, and so I just dove fully in and learned, from storytelling to, script writing and nailing the first second of the video, the first 3 seconds of the video, and visual hooks and so I basically did like roughly a 30-day-ish challenge, posting once a day, putting a lot of effort into each post. They were all short form video posts, and I did stuff from humorous to, more serious, moody, artsy, some transformation stuff, and you know, I sucked at all of those things I just mentioned, but at least it was giving me reps,
Totally.
and after roughly 30 days, I was able to look back and go, okay, these obviously did a little better than those. These I hated making, those I kind of liked making. Uh, and so I was able to have data, to look at, and from there, I started developing a little bit of a plan, and also hired, kind of in a freelance capacity, uh, an awesome guy who still works with me named Jacob. He's a social media manager for like news finance company now, but he still freelances with me, so we have a weekly meeting.
Oh, nice.
Um, he's just great to like bounce ideas off of. He's a great writer. So credit to him, but I pretty much still was doing like all of the work. And he'll say this too, like almost all the ideas were mine, still coming up with, and because I was going hard at like, how do I nail, video creation in particular, but content creation in general. And so yeah, I just kept grinding. After those 30 days, I wasn't posting every day, but I started, narrowing down again what types of things I wanted to make, practicing storytelling. I did some series of like a restoration series 8 months ago, of a Mr. Chair that I was restoring, and that was a cool idea. And yeah, just slow grind, and
That's
then
what probably hooked me in that one.
yeah.
I reckon. I don't know. I probably got you around 20,000, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's cool to know that. And so yeah, but I finally had a video pop, and it literally took me from, I think I gained a couple hundred followers while I was doing that grind, and I was like, oh my God, I got past 12.3. Like, maybe I'm not shadow banned. And then and then I had, yeah, then I was like, okay, there's a chance I could grow, and then I had a video pop, and up until that point, I had one video hit like 100,000 views, which was cool. but nothing really significant other than that. But I finally had a video pop and hit 1 million views, just very much out of nowhere. I posted it. It was a Mr. Chair transformation, 60-second long, start to finish. And I remember I posted it. I was like, man, I think I spent 5 days editing this 60-second video.
Wow, it does go to
Like,
show that time, the input matters, doesn't it?
I mean, no joke. I was like every 0.3 of a second was intentional
Yeah, that's
through
impressive.
the edit, you know, and that was compiled from 3 weeks of footage on and
Yeah.
off, you know, working
Yeah,
on
because
the
restoration
piece.
takes time. Yeah.
Yeah, the restoration might have taken me a week to week and a half had
Yeah.
I not done camera work, but it took me 3, if not probably closer to 4 weeks to restore the same piece because I was capturing it, moving the tripod, you know, all the time, doing some time lapse, some regular, you know, speed, and then of course on the edit side of things got really, really critical, you know, on myself. And again, just by that time, I had more experience. I had watched hundreds of more other awesome creators and what they're nailing, and you know, just pulling, compiling, and yeah. And so, anyways, I posted that video, and I was like, all right, you know, and it did nothing the first
Oh,
day.
really?
Not nothing, but
Yeah. Yeah, but close to nothing.
normal amount,
Yeah, yeah.
like maybe 1,000 views, 1,500 hours, something like that at that time. And I'm like, damn, but all right, I guess, you know, I just keep going. Like I was also learning to work that muscle too of not like throwing in the towel because a video flopped. I
Yeah, and
was
it's
like a
not like
little
a failure.
disappointed,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was a little disappointed to be honest, but also I was like, all right, just keep going. So then I did a few more videos. I think about 6 days after I posted that video, for whatever reason, don't ask me like Instagram algorithm why it
That's
did it like that or whatever, but it literally just goes, and I'm like, holy crap, this video has 8,000 views now, you know, holy crap, it has 15,000 views now. Next day, it has 80,000 views. What the heck? And then like, and the followers now are just like pouring in, and then it just like, and within like days, I had 10,000 more followers.
crazy.
Like, and it just climbed and climbed, and then stalled out around like 1 million-ish. And I was manually DMing almost pretty much every single follower. So I would dedicate like 2 hours every morning to like send DMs to people, just thanking them
Wow.
for following, and you know, including a personal message if like their account had some sort of information on it. And I think that was a really great move for just like connecting with people, but also I have a feeling maybe the algorithm liked seeing like thousands of accounts DMing back and forth with me on
That's not a
top
yeah.
of
Yeah,
the
on top of
video
yeah.
doing well, and comments, you know, coming into, and shares, of course, stuff. So yeah, so that was definitely a huge turning point, and that was like a major boost of like, holy crap, like I I figured it out, you know,
Yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
though not every video is viral since then, not every video is intended to be viral since then, you know, either. So, but yeah, that was a cool moment.
Oh
So,
man, it's so great to see. It's awesome to see. It was incredible.
yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
And it
I
just
appreciate
you can
that.
see it from a like yeah, from a business standpoint of how much time goes into things, and then
Yeah.
sometimes it's so difficult to film restorations. I know people are like, what are you talking about? It doesn't sound like it's that hard. Because compared to a lot of things in life, it's not. But like it is difficult,
Yeah.
like when you're just trying
Yeah.
to get through a job to restore
Right.
something and get paid, or to keep a client happy, and if you've got a bunch of different things going on, but then to take the
Yeah.
time, and it's so, I've got to take the time, and I've got to film everything, and then you can't dip off during the
Yeah.
process, because you go, oh, screw it, I'll just quickly, I'll spray this, and then I'll get onto that. You have to go, no, slow down, film it.
You gotta
And
show it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what
Drive
happened.
times, issues.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you've got to go through the
Like,
whole thing, and you're like, it's
yeah.
very difficult to stay disciplined on every single aspect of those things all the time. Because I find it, I'm energized at the start of a project, and then I'm like sanding something, and I'm like, oh, who wants to see sanding? And then all of a sudden I finish, and I'm like, God damn, I forgot to film it.
Yeah. You want to like test your faith in life or yourself or God or whatever. Like commit to a video project that you know is going to take like a week or longer. You know, like it takes a massive leap mentally, at least for me. Maybe some people
Oh
it's
no.
just
Yep.
cakewalk, but like yeah, thinking that is a really hard mental obstacle to overcome is when you're shooting that before moment and you're like, fuck, this is gonna take forever to
Yeah.
restore, or how am I gonna capture this? Or how, you know, like you're like a film director,
Yeah.
you're a restoration guy,
Marketer.
you're a business owner, and you can't dedicate a month to something you know is probably gonna take you, you know, it's just like, and all of those things, yeah, you have to get past to just hit record, start, do it, do the next thing, do the next thing, and then in the end, hope that not all of your files got deleted.
Oh, and it's also like it's like a secondary task. Like the first task is to
Totally.
restore the
Two
thing
jobs.
and to sell
Yeah.
whatever. But it's like the secondary task is the filming. But it's like I remember I did a big restoration video on a sideboard, but it was a how-to step. It went for like 15 minutes, but it was just
Nice.
the entire thing on
Wow. Yeah.
YouTube of like exactly the products we used, and like it took.
Yeah.
And I commented when I posted it, and I was literally just like, editing this and making the video took far longer than the restoration. Like it took so much, and it was way more tedious. Like
Yeah.
I'd rather restore the thing 5 times than sit
Yeah.
down and edit for 4 days. You know, like
Yeah.
with your like sort of semi-amateur editing skills. You know, where like I'd rather do what I'm good at and sort of splice
Yeah.
veneers. You know, like,
Not splice clips.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but no, it's nice to hear that was like a grind, to be honest, because like
So grind.
some things just shoot up and you go, God damn, what the heck?
I
But
know, dude. Trust me. It doesn't escape all of, you know, it doesn't escape me. The envy creeps in for sure, you know, of like, damn, that person's posting about literally doing nothing and they have like a million follow, you know, or whatever. It's like crap. But I also have a great appreciation for like, you know, the ones who maybe it's not even furniture related, but like they just you can tell they're great at storytelling or whatever. Like I appreciate that. I'm like, there's way more intentionality that goes into that than people probably assume. So, but yeah, I mean, I appreciate your encouragement because yeah, behind the scenes, absolutely is major grind. And even since then, you know, it's like one video to pop is awesome, and I'm so grateful for it. But like the grind did not stop, you know, it just
yeah,
kept going. But then I did have a couple more, you know, had a couple more pops since then, and that's cool. It's cool for growth. But yeah, it's definitely yeah, you got to know why, you know, why you post. I think it's important
yeah,
to
man. Yes, agreed.
and and I think you'll find this maybe helpful for you to hear and others listening is like I'll just share kind of my current strategy even is I have basically three buckets of content. And this is mainly referring to Instagram, even though I am pretty active on all major social media and now even LinkedIn. But Instagram in particular, my strategy is and TikTok, pretty much all the short form like video platforms, YouTube,
The
TikTok, and
YouTube shorts and
Instagram.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, although now I just ran some recent tests which were interesting between those three slight variations on element video elements, but anyways, overall strategy buckets is I have education, which is just straight helpfulness, and that is by no means intended to go viral. Like I hope I get a boatload of comments, mainly of just people being like, dude, this helped me, you know? So like I make that content for that purpose. And I've had a couple of those videos actually get pretty decent reach, maybe 100, 2,000, 200 to 200,000 views on a couple of those educational videos, which I was really excited about because I'm like, that wasn't even made, you know, for that reason. It was just like education, but for the most part, education is just for education and like teaching and helpfulness. Then I have a bucket for storytelling, and that's really just me being more real and raw. The only part of those videos that's scripted is the question, and I'll usually have my wife ask the question, and then the rest is just totally my real answer. Just like in the moment, no plans, just like, yeah, this is how this story unfolded. This is how this restoration went. This was the craziest thing I think I've done. This was whatever, you know. Um, yeah, and so that's a great, I love that. I have plans to do a lot more of those coming up. I really enjoy making those and sharing those. So that's storytelling, and the purpose for that is for connection, like to build a relationship, right, with my followers and stuff. And then the third bucket is the viral bucket, the growth purpose
Yeah,
bucket,
that saucy bucket.
just going for it, like hooking the crap out of me, you know, like spending 5 days on the first 3 seconds. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's right.
But yeah, but yeah, with that bucket, the general type of content is transformational content. So those generally I do 60 seconds. So like I max out the reel. I mean, you could do 90 seconds in the US.
Yeah.
Allegedly, you can do 3 minute long reels. I think in Europe, certain countries are testing that. But anyways, I've just stuck to 60 because I think across the board for now, that still is. I mean, if you are good at storytelling and visuals or whatever, like 60 seconds is still, I think, a really long amount of time to keep someone's attention in short form, but it's still not maybe too long. Like 90 is, I think, definitely outskirts. You have to be just masterful to go that, you know, to get a lot of people to stay that long. So anyway, so yeah, I typically will do like a 60-second long transformation. And, you know, I've tried lots of things within that framework of doing voiceover with the story or just showing the transformation with music, doing just ASMR. And so playing around with that. But yeah, those videos, they are like, I'm swinging for the fence because, you know, like I shared earlier, I'm spending 3 weeks on the process, restoring and recording for a 60-second video. So like I am swinging. I really hope it does take off, but you know, if it doesn't, then it's just another video.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I think that's super helpful because like, yeah, it's very clever to like just bucket stuff because at least, you know, you're not like you don't want to get stuck into a loop of just trying to be some viral guy all the time.
Yeah.
But you also want to have like an outlet for that. So you want to be like, yeah, well,
yes.
You don't want to be like ashamed of like, or like, you don't want to like present as doing that. You're like, no, that's one of the things we're doing. And then these are the other things we enjoy doing. You don't want to just be like, just punching people in the face relentlessly. Right. Like it's a good approach. I always just put up things that I just think is funny. I'm always like, oh, I like this, I like that. But it's great. That's way more.
I love it. Yeah, I love your
systematized. Yeah, me just getting hit in the groin. But it's much funnier. Not much funnier. It's a way better approach to be like, this is for that, this is for that, this is for that, and then you can sort of when you're making something, you've got like a North Star to be like, that's the direction this content's going in.
And that's helped me a lot, man, because, you know, like we were talking earlier, as creatives, our minds can just go berserk with ideas. And so, yeah, my phone notes, as I'm sure yours are I have thousands of notes. You know, I probably have hundreds and hundreds of folders and thousands of notes, you know, like within those folders. So it's like, I try to stay organized, but like, I mean, you know, yeah, just it helps is what I'm saying, to have those buckets to go, okay, be creative, but try to keep it in this wheelhouse, like, because it can get overwhelming is what I was trying to get to, is like, I can be sitting or whatever, having some alone time or thinking of video ideas, and it's just like, oh, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that. And yeah, you can just easily get burned out, and then you throw the Hail Mary, which is what I was doing early on, of like, I hope every video is viral, and every video is not viral. So then you get discouraged. So then it's like, oh, like, so yeah, the buckets has been super, super helpful just for me mentally, creatively, and taking the pressure off, you know, of like, okay, this is for education to help people. This is for storytelling. And you're like, I still am just looking at myself like, dude, I'm such a newbie. Like, I'm so just barely learning storytelling. I'm still like learning how to present education and like an entertaining or engaging way. I'm still
Yeah.
learning how to go viral. So it's like, yeah, it's but it's just taking a lot of the pressure off.
No, man, that's yeah, that's amazing. It's so interesting because I think it also helps setting something up in that fashion is even subconsciously people watching it sort of semi know what to expect as well. Like they
Mhm.
understand what you're doing. And so when something comes through, you're like, oh, that's one of his educational things, or this is something that's more romantic. And you're sort of getting this flow of like knowing what they're going to expect. I think
Yeah.
I think I
I
do
have I
I do the
Go ahead.
opposite. People are like, what the hell is Jamie going to
No,
do?
but yeah, it is hard or it is weird because like I do purposely put a govern on myself, like in making, my own parameters with that. It's like, and you've gotten to chat with me more here in person, like I am generally more carefree and like, I mean, I love cracking jokes and stuff like that. Um, but a part of my, kind of brand, not as I'm not being fake. I'm by like not showing all sides of me. Like
Yeah,
this is the artist who I am.
yeah,
I'm just choosing to mainly show this part of me. It's like this is the businessman I am. I'm just choosing, and now I am purposefully incorporating some more personal brand. And so I'm starting to share a little more of, on my stories in particular. For the people like who are following me closer, I feel like rewarding them with like opening up a little more and just sharing more of who I am. And
yeah. I
but
think yeah,
yeah,
you're just showing
I
like you're just showing that side of yourself that is that thing. You know, you are like that in those realms, and you have, like you say, you want to like seek excellence at those things, and you're sort of showing that aspect of it, which there's nothing wrong with it. It's
yeah,
not like not
yeah,
revealing part of yourself isn't not being yourself. You're like, I'm presenting this part,
exactly.
you know, like I'm just going to present this.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Rather,
was something I had to that was something I had to just learn. Like I felt so weird at first. Like I was actually talking to a friend around 10 months ago when I was getting serious. I'm like, I want to get serious about brand. I want to get serious about content creation. And we were talking through and he was helping me kind of work through mentally, like, what do you want to be like really known for, or seen as and stuff. And I'm like, I mean, I really feel like I'm an artist. Like, and so, you know, he very kindly was like, maybe consider like not doing as much humor stuff. Like, and he's like, he was really kind about it. I'm like, that's a really good point. Like, and again, there's nothing wrong. Like, there are so many times I am tempted to do that. And I occasionally sprinkle it in, like, again, to my stories, just like sharing something funny or whatever. But yeah, just being intentional. Because it's like, and again, dude, this is still a grain of salt. I mean, because there's people like, is it Blacktail Studios? I think you probably know him on YouTube.
yeah, I'm saying that.
You know
Yep.
what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yep.
Like that guy is freaking
Yeah,
hysterical,
yeah,
so funny. He does like I think good work and
yeah,
like amazing content creator, obviously on YouTube. But I'm just saying, like, he's a perfect example of like people will still pay him 20 grand for a custom table, but he also just makes fun of himself the entire video
yeah.
of a
And
time lapse of a build. So like, so this is still a grain of salt, what I'm saying. But at least for me, I'm just like, well, artists, I think people take people seriously who take themselves a little more seriously. So I was like, yeah, I think I need to do that more. I think I need to take myself a little more seriously. And then I, switched from being a furniture business on Instagram and online in general to showing me more, showing my face. And then I've done this like really, it felt awkward to me, but I've tried doing this slow transition of like business to personal brand on the same account.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, it was pretty abrupt, I guess, in some ways, but now I'm kind of all in on personal brand, but still keeping it around this niche. So
Yeah, it is hard. I just try. Yeah, it is difficult. I lean far more just a cult of personality. That's all I try to. No, I'm joking. I just go. But
Dude,
I.
I genuinely love your stuff though. I feel like you're my spirit animal in some ways. My humorous side of me, I'm like, damn, I love your content.
No, no, it's good. I mean, I get, yeah, my problem is it's so much of my day is so serious. Like so much of the restoration I take so seriously. And like, yeah, some of the conversations with clients and everything. And just running a business is like 98%, it's just so taxing and serious that when I just don't want people, like my thing is like, I just don't want people to take this thing too seriously. I'm like, I just want them to see like, damn, that guy does good stuff and he's kind of an idiot. But like that's but no, just having a more like balanced approach like that totally makes sense. And like you say, you're not like hiding anything. You're just sort of you're just showing. It's like it's a measured approach, which is what I found engaging. I was like, oh, this is, and it sort of changed the way I started making content. I'm like, oh, not that I was going to imitate you. I'm like, I need to shoot things in a better fashion. Like I need to use better lighting, and I need to think of what the person is visually seeing in the whole image, not just what I'm trying to show them. I'm not trying to, you're sort of walking them through something rather than just like giving them the thing. It's a really good approach. And it's one of those things that feels like I feel like you nailed it. Like it's sort of, not that it's borrowed from other places, but it's like one of those things that it works in a bunch of other areas. And then you've managed to like distill it down really nicely and just having everything black and clean and the item in focus, and then you kind of dressed in the apron the same each time. Like those things are measured and considered. And I'm like, oh man, and it makes everything look neater, it looks nicer. People are more willing to engage with that sort of format. So totally, it's just a more, and that's hard to come to. That's like a come to Jesus moment. It's like a hard thing to like, to dial into.
For
like
sure. That's
easy
a
when you
great
see
observation.
If I just look at it and go, oh yeah, he's doing that thing. But to do it is not, it's hard.
That's a great observation, man. Yeah, you can scroll back far enough, probably not too far, and you'll see my first like tight window shot where I was like doing my first like educational tip, and my mindset behind it was like, oh, I've never seen someone in furniture like restoration education pretty much at that time, especially the only woodworking videos or tutorials I saw like on YouTube was an older guy. Super awesome. Shout out to all the old guys.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, typically boring, slow. You watch a 2-hour video to get like probably 3 minutes of information you needed. And so I'm like, how can I like modernize, and so I totally give credit to Hormozy and people like him who, again, especially 10 or so months ago were at that time, I mean, as fast trends change and stuff, but like at that time, like, and still relevant, but like captions, nice and clear, bold, information, quick, 20 seconds, 60 seconds, 30 seconds, like how, so I was like, how do I freaking deliver an educational point around furniture restoration, with this tight of a window, short form, like format and up close to like engage with the information. And so I just went for it. Like go back and look. Like I think I absolutely sucked, especially the first few. I was just like, well, you have to learn to talk. And like you were saying, you just have to start. It's awkward. Like sitting in my shop, setting up the shot, and I'm like, how am I gonna do, I'm just like, I don't talk like this normally. I don't know how to like, verbally communicate super
we're
well.
not like we're not media trained on like how to present.
Exactly. And so it just literally I just started, and again, just learning script writing, like, okay, how can I, because I'm super wordy, or my past was very wordy, very detailed. I would tell every detail of the story, but I'm learning to like make it more concise. And so like I just kept doing that. Make it tighter, make it shorter, make it shorter, make it shorter. And so,
Which is like, it totally makes sense when you've seen it, like when it's been done, like when you've produced it. Now it makes sense. But it is one of those things, and I found it interesting when I saw you doing them, because restoration there's so much involved. It's such a complex thing. So it's almost counterintuitive to be like you know, to like
How to
pair
dump it down.
yeah, to prepare it back. And it's not a bad thing
Yeah.
because like fundamental information's the most powerful information. You know, like boiling something down to like the ground bedded truth of something is like super valuable. But with restoration, you're kind of like, so do this. But in my head, I'm like, unless that happens, or until this happens. And then there's another problem. And you've got to think of the other problems that can happen that you'll never know about. When they do come, you just got to start again. You know, like,
exactly.
But it's so good to be like, just this is one item we can talk about. Yeah. And it's easy to go like, oh, yeah, he's talking about sanding. You know, but it is hard to be the guy that presents it like that and is got a intentionality of like, this is how we're doing it.
Exactly, dude. I so appreciate. I feel like you definitely understand that, you know, mentally. Because I can totally expound a lot on that. A lot of internal thoughts I've had. Talking about the topic of imposter syndrome, and I know there's a couple of viewpoints on that topic. You know, one is Hermosi saying like, well, it just means you're not good enough yet. The other is, I think, the more common view, which is like, well, no. Sometimes we just struggle like saying, hey, I actually know this thing on camera or right in front of people or with an authoritative voice, you know, and stuff. So that's what I felt like. I'm like, to your point earlier, it's like, I'm like, here's how you sand. And it's like, okay, but what type of piece? What is the thickness? What is the, you know, what if you burn through? Like, you know, it's like, learning how to like just block all the noise out from other people's, you know, opinions that may or may not come. Usually we just imagine them. So I had to get over that a lot and still do. Like there's certain topics I might touch on and I'm like, well, you can put lacquer over that material, but you really have to wait 18 hours. You shouldn't try it in 1 hour after, you know, it's just like, do this. And I just make sure like the absolute critical points I don't leave out. Like, and I just try to like, yes, there's always nuance. Yes, there's always, you know, if you do it wrong, yes, you'll have to make fix your mistake. It's like, but you can't cover all that in 60 seconds. And so what often happens is people will ask in the comments.
I was just about to say that. I was like, well, the good thing about going narrow is people go, but what about this? Then you go, great, we can talk about that down here.
Or I can make another video.
Exactly. It's like, we're not going to answer every single aspect of every single thing here. So I'm going to narrow it down. We'll discuss it down here. Then I go, that's worth expanding on. So it's like, it totally makes sense. Going off that, this will probably have to be one of the final questions or paces of conversation, just because I've actually got to deliver some chairs.
Nice. Congrats.
But going from that, it's sort of the same idea of like boiling an idea down to its ground truth and discussing these things online, which I always sort of avoided because I was like, oh God, I can't be bothered explaining all the aspects, which is like, your approach is way better because at least you're giving people half a chance to integrate with it, you know. But how did that go when you started moving to do sort of an online educational situation? Because that's one of the sort of things you're aiming to do as well.
Yes. Yeah. The educational, I'll call it educational program at this time because I am getting more clarity as time has gone by, you know, with the education system. And so basically, you know, I started out with that, like, I have some mentors in my live business and stuff. And so I was like, man, how can I, how can I impact people? How can I also like monetize my knowledge, all those kind of things? And so, I ultimately just had a mentor who's like, well, why don't you just ask like your followers what they want, you know, or kind of thing, like just ask their, like, so literally one day on stories, I did it a couple of times just to try to get a decently consistent read, but I was like, you know, what do you kind of, why do you follow me / what would you like to see more? And so I just did a basic poll of like artistic, you know, furniture and seeing my products in an artistic way or education. And it was like 80% educate. Like people were like, teach us what you know, show us what you know, like. And I was shocked. I was like, man, I thought everyone followed me because they thought I was cool.
Yeah, everyone's like, give us the knowledge.
Just tell us what we freaking need to know and move on. Okay, buddy? Yeah.
Yeah, you're just a vessel
Yeah.
of information.
Exactly.
We don't care about the vessel.
We know how social media works. You're here to work for us, buddy. Like, so, yeah. So, anyways, so I was shocked, but I was like, okay, like I'm gonna listen. And so started with content, learning how to deliver the educational content for free on social media, and then me diving into how to build a course, it's just starting from zero, how to build a community, starting from zero. And so I just started, like anything, I started watching lots of videos and trying to find the best people in that space and learning from them. And, it's just like a lot of my story, it's been just an incredible grind
Oh
and
man.
very hard. The launch, a lot went into just planning the launch, designing the site, getting all the backend stuff set up, automations, yada yada, all
Oh
the,
man, that's so much work.
not fun behind the scenes
It's
stuff.
so much work involved.
All in all to say, you know, I've got a, I've got probably, I think, got around 30 something people in my community currently. I've got, I've had, I don't know the exact numbers, but I've sold a decent number of courses. I mean, I only offer two different courses at the moment that are like specialized skill. One's about veneer repairs, and then one is like a furniture touch-up masterclass, which covers a lot, but as you know, you can't cover everything about everything. Like, it's
Yeah, but
just
a general overview of that's super helpful.
yeah. So a lot of principle teaching, a lot of knowledge, and then one thing I'm proud of is like I spent boatloads of time doing in-depth touch-up demonstrations in the course, which took forever. I mean, it
Yeah.
just took so long because, as you know, it's not just sitting here in front of a computer like, here's how to sell a digital ebook, like, and show a slide on Canva.
Oh,
It's
man.
like that takes, no offense to those people, like, hats off if they're successful with that or whatever, but like freaking doing, lacquers and shellac and, various penetrating oils and like all these things, dry time, cure time, in
Yeah.
between shots, other life, other product, it's just like, holy crap, like so time consuming.
Doing a
So
nice
I'm
doing a
really
nice touch
stoked.
up takes so long if you're just going to do a
Yes.
nice touch up. So
Yeah,
documenting
and depending on
crazy.
the exactly, depending on the complexity of it. And I was dumb, but also proud that I did it. I did this just massive artistic touch up on this zebra wood desk. And so you've got like 40 different grain lines of color
Yeah.
in this like
Yeah.
3-inch area, right?
Layered. Yeah.
And there's a dark red line running through it. Like it was this massive gouge. And so like steaming it out and then, trying to teach how to, if you were to touch up something this difficult, this much coloration work, how to do it and showing it, the whole thing, like that took forever. But
And
it's
just
like,
thinking and making the plan is hard because a lot of times
exactly.
with touch ups, you sort of just make it up as you go along, and you have the concept of what you're going to do, but you don't generally have the roadmap.
Exactly.
So, like, to think of the roadmap and
Exactly.
how to explain the roadmap's really, really challenging.
Exactly. So it was that one 3-inch section was like, I don't even know, dude, like 20 hours of footage
Yeah,
brought down to a 5-minute segment in a, as a part of the course, like all of these other, lessons
yeah.
and quizzes and stuff. So like, yeah, wild. But just to share that, give you some behind the scenes. But yeah, overall, I'm really proud of what I've built so far. And I'm currently semi backburnering the paid education, I'll just call it, like the education system. I'm still active in our community. We do like a monthly like community live call and stuff. Anytime someone else is posting, asking questions, I respond right away. So like I'm active, but I am cooling the jets a little bit on like building another course, another course, another course, another course. From time management to, business reality, finance reality. Like I invested probably like 4 or 5 months,
Yeah.
building that out. And it's the great thing about it, it's there. Like, and the courses are there and they're awesome. Anyone can have access to them anytime, and stuff like that. So, but yeah, overall, that was kind of the journey into it. Where I'm at now, I'm kind of shifting my focus a little more back to the furniture business, you know, focusing harder on that again. Right now, it just makes more logical sense overall. And so yeah, the community will see just over time, I'll grow it slowly is the plan, but I want to build a much more transformational program and experience, which will be more like all inclusive, versus like separating things out. So that's what I've learned so
Yeah, well,
far
that's a good lesson. I mean,
with all that.
it's nice to hear as well, because when I hear of different people, because I've thought of the same thing of like, how do you educate this online? And it's like a worthwhile thought, because it's like, what's the best way to present this? There's so many things to, decisions to shoot off of how do I present this. But it's nice to, when you see people going like, oh, I'll do a refinishing course. And I'm like, oh, well, good luck, man. And so to see that you've put that much time and effort and thought into it, I would definitely say people should check it out, because just to have that amount of consideration, because I would, the amount of times I'm like, because a lot of these processes they're not like that hard. You can learn them. So like they are difficult to learn, but if you have someone actually telling you step by step what would work sort of most of the time, it's super valuable. And most people could pick it up. But
for sure,
there's so much effort that would go into explaining how, and there's so much of you thinking of like, and how do I actually get this information through concisely?
Exactly. And I want to point out like a couple other massive motivators for why I built all that was like me having gone through that journey and those trials, right? Early on of like asking 1,000 questions, half the time, you'll save months of time just knowing the right question to ask, right? Let alone asking it and learning it and having to do it. And so I really like, I've invested more in my own personal growth, like monetarily over the last, year than all of my life combined up until this point. And I saw the value in how it expedited my skill sets, right? In life and content creation or whatever. And so I'm like, I'm just so fully convinced that this will shave months, if not years, off of the learning trial by error. And you're gonna have some of that regardless, but like, yeah, if you know why you use, a penetrating oil on something versus why you use a lacquer, or if you're going to touch up a piece that already has lacquer, why you want to use the same, like just these, like to us it's like, well, duh, now, but like then you'd ruin a piece, you'd restart, like
you'll just fail.
So you're just shaving, so much time, which does absolutely equal money by, paying what I feel is just incredibly affordable. Like, when building it all, I'm like, okay, if I could go back 7, 8 years, 9 years, whatever, like, and someone's like, hey, Leif, for $100, I'm gonna help you not have to drop 1,000 F-bombs over the next year, because I'm gonna show you exactly how you should do this and why, and I'll teach you why, like the knowledge side and this. And you can take this thing and it probably will take you 2 to 5 days if you just do it kind of nonstop, versus like spending 2 years, wasting a lot of money, a lot of time, it's like,
and possibly giving up.
How much I'll pay, like, starting out, I'm like, dude, for $100 or whatever, way more than that back then I would have paid if I knew like it could expedite that, right?
I mean, $100 is like the price of one finish or one product a lot of the time. So like, you buy the wrong product and do the wrong thing.
Yeah, exactly. So so I'm like, if I can make something that I know would have helped me just a ton and make it really affordable, well, I did research before I started this to see if it would hopefully be viable just from my own personal investment standpoint. And, it seemed like it would be, and I still think it will be, but for now, it really is like I've created it for other people. It's not some crazy, you know, money making scheme or, like I know a lot of people do courses and stuff nowadays. But it is cool knowing I'm teaching a very tangible skill, quote unquote, real life skill. I'm not just like selling a course on how to make a course, how to sell a course, how to sell a course,
Yeah.
so that's cool.
No, I think
But
that's really admirable,
yeah,
man, because it is. It takes so much time and so much effort, and it is actually very helpful. And I think I was always a little like cynical because I just had a great experience learning restoration because I just had all these guys around me who knew everything, and I didn't have to struggle to find information. I could just ask questions non-stop, and they were paid they were paid to answer me. They didn't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that is nice.
then I'm like, in my head, I'm like, just go learn, go spend 10 years in a dark factory learning and be sad. Just go and do that. But now, even in Australia, there's nowhere to really, like, those businesses are kind of gone. Running at that scale, there's not really many restoration workshops that operate in that fashion. So the learning I had isn't even available really anymore to anyone, at least in my area. So you go, like, having something like that is hugely valuable because people would want to do it. If people that want to do it or are interested, I have people that just come in and ask me if they want to work for free because they're like, they want to learn. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that because that sounds like a trap. No, I'm joking, but I'm like, you can't employ people for free. You're like, it is hard. It's illegal. Yeah. So I'm like, So as much as you want to, it's like, and I don't have enough time to sit around and teach someone while I'm doing something. So having people that are willing to actually put the effort in and really consider it and put something out there for something that's very affordable is very admirable.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I hope it truly helps a lot of people and expedites a lot of headaches and a lot of money. And, there's just so much you can avoid with the right knowledge. Like, knowledge really is power in so many areas of life. So
especially with that tangible restoration work where it's literally just you and the thing and it tells you when you're wrong. Tells you directly to your face when you're wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's awesome. It's midday here, and I've got a delivery at 12:30, so I do have to go. But I really, I'm not just saying I enjoyed this conversation because it was hilarious. As soon as we started, part of me wishes we recorded it because we're just laughing about how we started speaking and everything was exactly the same. Like, I love water sports, you love water sports. You grew up with your dad doing landscaping. I grew up with my dad doing landscaping. Obviously, we're both furniture restorers. It was crazy, and I'm so incredibly happy that I decided to DM you, and the fact that you said yes. So I can't thank you enough. And I'm excited because I feel like we can chat together in the future about stuff, even whether it's on the podcast or off. It's great. So I cannot thank you enough.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
That's a pleasure. So you are ReVision Furniture on Instagram. What else do we need to tell the people?
Yes, sir. Yeah. ReVision Furniture across all the major social media platforms. So yeah, check me out. Instagram, TikTok, trying to grow on TikTok a lot right now. YouTube, at ReVision Furniture. And also check out my website, revisionfurniture.com. That's where I sell all my high-end mid-century modern furniture. And then revisionrestoration.com is my educational system that I've been building out and community as well. And
you would deliver those items, is it America-wide? Do you do the whole area? Or how do you send it?
I do international. Yeah, I've shipped some pieces overseas before. So yeah, technically I offer international shipping. Most of my clients are in the US for sure.
Worldwide shipping. Let's go.
That's
Get
right.
in contact with him. Come on.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm doing the I'm begging for you, dude. I'm trying to beg. that's
Thank
awesome,
you.
man. I really can't thank you enough. Honestly, that was fantastic.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. Thank you.